Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, July 27th of 2025. Now, I have a beautiful message to share with you today. It feels like for the last few years, and for some people many years, but the last few years in particular, there has been a great awakening. We've all kind of dubbed it, this is the Great Awakening. And what I feel is starting to happen on a really beautiful level for so many people is not just the Great Awakening, but now we're in a great remembering. And what I thought would be really cool to do would be to bring forward my knowledge, my experience, and what I grew up with plant medicine and loving Mother Earth, and how it has really deepened and been enriched, not just because I've been able to carry on my dad's work, but I would say these last 5 years that have been so rough on humanity as we've been awakening to all these different truths and all these different things, is that we are now becoming closer to Mother Nature, and so many people are seeking out Mother Nature and her remedies and her herbs and her food and all of the things that we are gifted, because we are connected to this beautiful planet. We are connected on so many levels. And I think that what I really want to bring out today is not just a remembering, but a realization that we have a connection with these plants, not just on a biological level, but on an emotional and a spiritual level. I think that there's many things that it can do for us, these plants, to help not just heal us, but raise our consciousness. So I have this really beautiful message that I just sat and wrote through a bunch of ideas. And of course, I always love to bring in some questions that is really good to ask yourself as we kind of go through this thought process of the deepest remembering that we can possibly do when it comes to Mother Earth and the plants that heal us. Because like I said, it's not just about the physical healing, it's about the spiritual and the emotional connection, healing, rising consciousness, all of this stuff. It all flows together. So I believe what's happening is that we're in the middle of a planetary shift. For so many things, on so many levels. If you've gone down 1,000 rabbit holes like I have, not just all about all the systems and all the things in the matrix, but we're also talking about all the things spiritually, being disconnected from our consciousness on purpose, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So it's not just technology and politics is what I wrote here, but it's deeply spiritual. And it's not just biological. Okay, this is a deeply spiritual shift. Okay, so what I find is happening is it's happening quietly, and that people are starting to remember, right? So what I've noticed is that what I wrote here is many people never even grew one thing, let alone planting any herbs. You know, I know a lot of people who live in cities who never even planted anything on their balcony, or maybe even in a pot. But what I'm finding is that people are starting to change. Okay, so we're beginning to recognize that the earth isn't just beneath us. We're not just walking on it. She is us. We're remembering that. Okay, and what I really want to impart in the main part of this message is that this is not about demonizing modern medicine. Okay, because we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I personally went through a big knee surgery almost 3 years ago, and it changed the way I'm able to literally walk through this life, because I had a bad water ski accident. 25 years later, it ended up I had to have a full knee replacement, which was like, I fought it for a long time, and I'm so against going to the doctor that I was actually hurting myself. So it's not about demonizing modern medicine, because we can take the best of everything that we have to offer, technology and the medical department, emergency care, the testing, all the things that we can do. It is not about demonizing that at all on any level. In fact, if we don't learn to find a balance, we can actually hurt ourselves, right? Okay, so it's about balance and discernment, and I believe reverence. reverence for all of it, and tuning into the discernment piece. What is the best thing for me? I get to discern. I get to use my common sense. I get to tune into my higher self. You get to answer all the questions for you, okay? And then I wrote this: it's okay to hold a scalpel in one hand and then at the same time, like a sprig of holy basil. It's okay to do both, right? In fact, I think it's really important to do both. I don't think it's just okay. I think it's very, very important. Okay, we need to remember that healing is multidimensional. You know, we're not just one-dimensional beings. And it begins, I believe, right at the time that we tune into what the frequency of nature is. That is when the real remembering of our connection to Mother Nature and what she can do for us as we navigate our way through the great remembering, okay? So here are some questions, some inner reflection questions that you could ask yourself. What part of me have I silenced in exchange for comfort or conformity? This is a question that comes up in some form in almost every video that I do, that I incorporate some questions, because I think that there's a piece of us that we stifle. So what part of me have I silenced in exchange for comfort or conformity? You know, that was huge during 2020, the conformity piece. We're going to silence a piece of what we know is true, what we know we shouldn't do or should do, because we want to conform. It feels easier. So that's such a great question in almost any situation to ask yourself. What would it feel like to fully trust my body's wisdom again? That's a huge question, you guys, because if you think about how we outsource our power to everything, there is such an outsourcing of our health and our body's wisdom to the person in the white coat, the person, it could be anybody. We want someone to tell us what to do. We want someone to have the answers. And it might even be calling to God for the answers. We need to remember we are a part of God. We have the answers if we tune into that our higher self, which is a piece of God. We have the answers, okay? And we have to take responsibility. So what would it feel like to fully trust my body's wisdom again? I will tell you, it's an extremely empowering place to be. And I was gifted this as a child. I was gifted this and have been steadfast with this throughout all of the decades that I have been around so far and all the phases that my life has taken. From teenager through my 20s when I had my children, raising my children, all the things that I've gone through as a woman, and now in my mid-60s, I have been so lucky that I was gifted the learning about the inner wisdom of trusting my body for so many reasons. And some of the ways that I've taken care of myself over the years, I've gotten pushback from people. Like, they can't believe I've never had a mammogram. I can't believe I've never had this test or that test. Or I don't go in every year to go get certain things that women get every year, or whatever. And it's been really, really easy for me to deflect it, because I know. And I know that I'm so blessed and lucky in this department. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. So then this question: who benefits when I forget the power of nature? You need to really ask yourself that question. Who benefits? Who benefits when I don't trust Mother Nature? Every time I talk with someone about even whatever it might be, in the financial realm, not just in the medical and health realm, but it's always about the money. You have to really think about who is benefiting from you staying stuck and not remembering the innate wisdom of your body's ability to heal. Just that, or just what it wants to do to be well, what it does, right? Okay, so then what I really wanted to do is I wanted to talk about some herbs that I feel don't have a lot of attention. So here's what I wrote. We need to look at plants as teachers, not just tools, okay? We've been conditioned to see plants as passive substances. Okay, so they're powerful, and we know that a lot of them have been taken and made into something synthetic because you can't patent the molecules of Mother Nature. You can patent something that is a synthetic. Like, a really good example of that right now is synthetic nicotine, which is making up almost all of the nicotine products out there, pouches and patches and gum and vapes. And it's not made from naturally occurring nicotine that comes from tobacco or potatoes or eggplant or whatever. I mean, tobacco contains the highest content of it, and it's starting to come out that we have nicotine receptors in our body, and our body recognizes and actually benefits from nicotine. But most of the nicotine that's in the products is synthetic. It's not even natural. So we need to realize that plants are not passive substances. They're not something just to take out and, now you can monetize it if it's synthetic. You make something that's not natural, then you can monetize it, okay? So these are not just things to consume, extract, standardize, and regulate, okay? What I find that does is it reduces them to their chemical constituents. It's like, all right, here's this chemical compound. It's exactly like just isolating out curcumin out of turmeric. Then it's like, all right, let's put this into a product, or even a beta carotene out of a carrot. You're isolating something out of the whole that is so perfect, okay? We need to realize, this is what I have come to believe. These plants are not just products, they are sentient beings. They are teachers, and they don't just treat symptoms, they awaken our soul memory. You look at all the indigenous people, you look at the shamans who put you through maybe a sacred plant medicine journey. There is a deep soul awakening that happens when you realize that these plants are teachers. Okay, and I'm going to expand on some of this, when all this stuff kind of came in, it made me so excited to jump on today's video, because I'm like, I cannot wait to share this. So here's what I realized. When you walk with a plant, not just use it, you are actually entering a relationship. Okay, so that's how I want you to think about this. This is what indigenous people and traditional medicine practitioners have known for millennia. Okay, so when I say traditional medicine, I'm not talking about modern medicine. I'm talking about traditional medicine practitioners, shamans, indigenous people. They will speak to the plants, and then they listen. And you can also dream. You can dream with plants. People used to put all kinds of things under their pillow, on their pillow, wear it, hang it above their doorways to ward off evil spirits or whatever that may be. Okay, these are powerful. So I think it's a really good idea to reframe our mindset around this. And so instead of asking this, what can this herb do for me? Okay, and this is something I, for decades, have been also, that's how my mindset has been that as well. And this is where I think the great remembering is happening. I'm now remembering that the plants are here to actually communicate with me, not just what can it do for me for this symptom, for this headache, for this menopause issue, for this anxiety, for this lack of sleep. It's not about asking what it can do for me, okay? It's about asking this: what does this plant want me to learn? Okay, so I think that's powerful, so powerful. In fact, it gives me chills. Okay, so then what we need to realize is that the plants are teachers, not just tools. Okay, and so what I wanted to do is I wrote down a list. I think I have about 10 or 11 about what I consider them are plant rebels. Because if you think about the plants that are out there that we're all familiar with, that get a lot of airplay, echinacea, adaptogens, even fungi like the mushrooms are getting a lot of play right now, which is phenomenal and absolutely wonderful. But what I thought would be really amazing is to write down some of my favorite plants that don't get a lot of airplay and the deeper meaning behind them. Okay, so you have things like lavender and chamomile, and they've been in the spotlight forever, right? But there's a bunch of plants that I consider underdogs. Okay, so the first one is a beautiful plant that is actually in a couple of the formulas that I personally formulated, and that is skullcap. So skullcap is not super well known, but it calms the monkey mind. It's specific for the brain. It can really kind of bring your brain into homeostasis. But then there's an energetic, emotional component to what skullcap teaches us, and this is it. Think of it as an energetic armor for sensitive souls. Skullcap doesn't just calm your nerves, it reinforces your boundaries and says, you don't have to carry everything. There is such a beauty to this amazing plant. The formulas that I've got it in is our Immunity Boost, which I formulated about 17 years ago. I had no idea that it carried this energetic, emotional, this beautiful lesson. And then I also put it in the Brain Glow. And that to me was the same thing, because I formulated that about 12 years ago. And I knew what it did for the brain as far as to help calm a busy brain, right? So now I've since learned that this is a beautiful teacher for many other things too. Now, another plant that I really wanted to focus on was blue vervain. And this is a plant my dad put into a really beautiful formula we make called Artran. This is a tincture. And the other plant that is in it is valerian root. So it only contains the two, blue vervain and valerian root. And the interesting thing is valerian root is a rock star. It's a mainstream. People know about it for anxiety and for sleep, mostly sleep, helping with insomnia. And it's a powerful herb. But then that little known herb, blue vervain, it also is known as a nervine, which can calm your nervous system. But then this is what I found about this. Blue vervain are for the perfectionists and the overthinkers. It deconstructs the inner tyrant and helps you step off the hamster wheel. It says, rest is not weakness. So there is a beautiful, energetic, emotional component to the amazing blue vervain, not just for what it does on a biological level, okay? And then another plant that I love, I don't have it in any formulas, and I've only ever just used it for myself and my family, but this is the amazing plant called motherwort. So it's mother and then W-O-R-T. So this is a plant that's known as the fierce feminine, okay? For when your heart is breaking or your spirit is flaying, okay? She wraps you in fierce compassion. This is excellent for grief, panic, and transition. So this is a deeply spiritual plant. All of these plants are. And again, we're not asking what can it do for me, we're asking what can it teach me. Okay, and then here's another one. I don't really have a lot of experience with this, but this came up on my radar during my research, and this is wild lettuce. So this is used traditionally as a dream herb and pain reliever. I did know about the pain relief part, but I have other herbs that I use for that, so I just never incorporated this. So traditionally used as a dream herb and a pain reliever. So I would be willing to bet if it relieves pain, it's got some things that also help you with sleep, right? For those carrying chronic tension and soul exhaustion, wild lettuce is a gentle gateway to surrender and sleep. I love that. Okay, now passion flower. This is one I am very familiar with because it is in one of my dad's original formulas, and that is KS10M, which is a formula that the main one in there is yohimbe, and then there's cinnamon, and then there's passion flower. And this is a tincture for the libido for men and women. The reason passion flower was added from a biological level is because yohimbe will raise your blood pressure a little bit as it stimulates the sexual organs, but then passion flower is known for helping to stabilize blood pressure, okay? So I always thought, okay, this is, for the most of my use with herbs and herbal medicine, it's always been on a biological level. It's within the last probably, when I first started gathering information for my book, Be Your Own Shaman, is when I really started developing a different relationship with the plants that I have been using for what they do for my whole life. So this is probably about four or 5 years old is my relationship with these plants has deepened and changed from no longer what they do, but what can I learn from them. Okay, so passion flower is not just a nervine. It is a plant of spiritual overactivity. For when your thoughts are spinning out of control and you're losing your grip on the present moment, she calls your spirit back into your body. Oh, that just literally gave me the chills. I mean, some of these plants, if we just take a moment to really study what they do and learn, and then listen. And this is why I've been, every Thursday for the last year now, I've been putting out an herbal wisdom video every Thursday on this channel, and teaching you about the medicinal benefits, the health benefits, how you can grow these plants in your yard, how you can have easy access to them. Because to me, that's the way we all start to remember, is to have a personal relationship with them as we plant them, we grow them, we take care of them, and then we harvest them and prepare them into things that nourish our physical bodies. That is how we do it. That's how it's done, right there, okay? So that's passion flower. Now, the next one is a plant called agrimony. And again, I don't have a whole lot of experience with this, but this is what I learned that it does. This is an emotional mask breaker. So mask, the mask we put on our face, this is an emotional mask breaker. It's for the people who always say, I'm fine, everything's okay, I'm fine. You say this with a smile while internally you're crumbling, or you're full of rage, or you're angry. So you just put on that mask and you just say everything's fine. So this is agrimony. Agrimony teaches you to face your truth with gentleness and to drop the performative peacekeeping. If you can relate to that, I think this inflicts mostly women over men. If I were to say the percentage, just being a woman myself who's done that 1,000 times, maybe 1,000,000 in my life, I'm fine, yep, it's all fine. And I'm not saying you should always burst out in anger, but think about this as an emotional peacekeeper. We can drop the performative peacekeeping and just bring our truth in with a gentleness. And agrimony is one of those plants that has that energy to it. So the next one here is a plant where you're going to use the root, and this is calamus root. And again, I don't have a whole lot of experience with this one, but here's what I found about this. This is a powerful third eye stimulator. Your third eye, right there. Okay, often used by mystics and seers to deepen intuition and dream recall. It wakes up your inner oracle. So a couple of these, I'm telling you, I'm going to order some bulk herbs or start growing these, and I'm going to make some tinctures and experiment with these. Like, these sound like the kind of tinctures I would like to have in my apothecary to add to the other ones that I have. And I have a group of little known herbs in my own personal apothecary, and these are a couple that I don't. So calamus root, really beautiful. Now the next one is called cleavers. Now cleavers, from my experience, is a really well-known herb for cleansing and stimulating your lymphatic system. And that one is my favorite, along with a plant called red root, which also is a powerful lymphatic cleanser, as is echinacea. Echinacea is great for the lymphatic system, so is red root, and so are cleavers. So cleavers is well known for your stimulating and cleansing your lymphatic system. It's also known as an energy detoxifier. So if you, kind of reminds me a little bit of sage. We can take sage and you can literally sage an area, sage a room, sage a home, and you're doing energy clearing. You're clearing out negative energy. So cleavers has that energy clearing, energy detoxification properties as well. On a spiritual level, it helps us let go of emotional clutter and stagnant connections. Think spring cleaning, but for your soul. Okay, that's awesome. Now, hawthorn berry. Now, I love hawthorn berry, and it is in our BP support, which is a blood pressure support tincture that we make. Amazing for heart health, really well known for what it does for your cardiovascular system. But here's what it does, and here's what it teaches us on an energetic level. So hawthorn berry is known as the great healer, okay, for heartbreak, betrayal, grief, and even generational wounds that are carried in the chest. So you think about what hawthorn berry does for your heart and your vascular system. So this is deep emotional heartbreak and wounds that are carried in your chest. And if you think about what happens when we have heartbreak, sometimes you'll hear someone say, oh, this person broke their heart, and someone maybe developed heart problems. Like, we are so connected to everything that happens to us in this life that our biology reacts accordingly. So hawthornberry is known as the great heart healer. Okay, let's see. Hawthorn doesn't just support cardiovascular health; it mends your spiritual armor. So a lot of people have not heard of that, and I know many people have, but this is another layer of what it teaches you rather than what it just does for you. Okay, now mullein, and I love mullein. Mullein is in our lung blend. I adore mullein, and I actually make it as a single because of what I know it does for your lungs. So I have it in our lung blend tincture, but I make this at home for myself because sometimes what I'll do for my family is if someone comes to me, a niece, a nephew, one of my sisters, and they have a specific issue, I'll just get my little herbal apothecary of the single stuff I have curing, and I'll make them a special tincture. And sometimes it might just be just pure mullein that they might need, okay? So mullein is known as the plant of ancestral breath. Ancestral breath. Okay, so think about that. Traditionally used for respiratory issues, mullein is also a guide for connecting to the breath of your lineage, your ancestry. This connects you to the breath of your ancestors. It helps you speak truth and exhale grief you didn't know you were holding. And now that I really think about it, I know that when I've made up blends for my family members that are just unique, individual for them, I know that I'm tuning into what they need emotionally and energetically. It really never dawned on me on this level. And I think about, when my dad passed away, which was a long time ago, 27 years, and then my mom passed away 10 years ago, that there's always sadness and deep sadness when you lose someone that's close, especially a parent or a sibling. And this helps you speak truth and exhale grief you didn't even know you were holding. So to me, there is such a beautiful wisdom in something like mullein that we can learn from. I love that. Okay, so that's actually the last one I wrote in this list. I realized I could probably talk about 50 different plants, and I could make this like a 2-hour video, but I thought let's just bring in a few and spotlight them. So here's what I wrote after that. Okay, when we enter a relationship with these plants, they become a mirror. They become a mirror of what we need to work on, what we need, how we need to grow, how we need to evolve, how we need to expand, and how we need to remember. All of these are beautiful remembrance. They don't just treat your wounds, they reveal our patterns. They reveal the patterns. In fact, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is that if you have lung issues, like your lungs hold patterns. In fact, almost every part of your body holds a pattern. If you had pneumonia or bronchitis as a child, you also might have had a moment of really deep grief or sadness in that same situation. Because what happens is then when you grow up, as you go through your teens, your 20s, and up and beyond, if you get an infection, a microbe, something from the physical world, and you've had a pattern in your lungs, that's usually where it will go first. But what I learned about, this is about 10 or 12 years ago, is that our lungs hold the pattern and the emotion of sadness. So this is where it will settle. Okay, so what plants do is they show us a mirror and they show us the patterns, our patterns, okay? They help us rewrite our story from the roots up, okay? So this is not always something that's really comfortable. This is, when you go deep with plants on this level, this is not always comfortable. And when we awaken, that's not comfortable. I feel it's a lot more comfortable to start remembering. But when you really connect with plants on this your teacher-student level, where you let the plants be the teacher and you're an open vessel for learning, sometimes it's not comfortable. You have to really look at things. You need to look at the things that are keeping you stuck, right? So it's not always comfortable what I wrote, but what I figured it is it's real, it's raw, it's true, and what's the most important piece of this is it's long lasting. You are making permanent shifts here. It's like when you learn a truth, you awaken to something, What you see and you learn, you can't unsee. Once you learn something, then you know it. And this is exactly what this does. These are long-lasting results and benefits. So here are some questions to ask yourself about this. What are the plants in my life trying to teach me beyond their physical effects? I would start doing a deep dive, first of all, into the herbs and the plants that you're familiar with. And it might just be something that you purchase even in a grocery store, like some fresh basil. You start on a basic level. If you don't, have an apothecary full of herbs like I do, or even a garden full of herbs, or even a pot on your balcony or anywhere, start connecting with the plants that you're consuming and learn about them. Do some research, tune into them, prepare them with a little more intention than just chopping it up and throwing it onto your food. I mean, chop them up and throw them on your food, but think about what they're really doing and what they're really providing for you. And so that's a perfect question to start with, right? What are the plants in my life trying to teach me beyond their physical effects? And then this, where have I numbed out instead of tuning in? That was the piece of just chopping something and throwing it onto your food, to hurry and get it done. I think we need to slow down if we can. I know sometimes if you're cooking for a big family and they're all waiting and you're in a hurry and you got places to go and things to do, I get that sometimes you're going to be rushed. But when you have the opportunity to slow down and tune in and give intention to the things that you're consuming, and especially in the plant world, we should always be paying attention to what we're consuming, right? But be a little more intentional. And then this, what would it feel like to be in a reciprocal relationship with the plant world? I will tell you, I know I have a lot more learning. I have a lot more growing. This to me is a never-ending beautiful connection that we get to have with the plants on this earth. But what would it look like for you if it were more reciprocal, where you get to let the plant teach you, right? So you ask yourself, what would it feel like to be in a reciprocal relationship with the plant world? Go out and hug a tree, at the very minimum. Observe it and notice it. I heard this, I don't know if it was a story or just something I heard, it was many years ago, about how the trees, they stand there, whether they're on a sidewalk in a busy city or it's standing in your yard or in the park that you visit. And for the most part, we just walk by them. We don't even notice them unless maybe it dies or it breaks in a rainstorm, or for the most part, I think the majority of humans don't even notice. And I've been doing this a long time. I've been a tree hugger my whole life. I will, walk around my yard and just love on my plants and just appreciate them and observe them. Because if you think about when you observe something, you give it your attention, you give it your higher consciousness, you give it love. Plants are living. They are living. Sometimes I wish I could watch a plant grow, because they grow so fast. I'm like, well, how did, especially you look at what weeds do. I mean, I weed almost every day in my yard, even if it's just for 10 or 15 minutes. This time of year, there are so many weeds around, and I never spray them. And I always smile as I'm, making my yard beautiful and where my other herbs are by pulling out the weeds. But I'm appreciating them and what they do. And sometimes I'm like, I just pulled you a couple days ago. How did you grow again? Okay, so crazy stuff. And then this final one with the plants. Am I ready to see the plants not just as helpers, but as elders? And think about them as elders as you walk along this path of life, and you're in the deepest part of remembering. I mean, how lucky are we that we are here during this time to connect on this level? Okay, so then this next thing is what I wrote. I believe that our birthright is vibrant health. I've been saying this for decades. I believe it's our birthright to be well. Our body knows how to be well, and it's our birthright. Now, even if we are born into a body that might be disabled, we can still be disabled and healthy If you really think about it, we all have our own journey. We all have our own path. And some of them are harder than others. There is no doubt. There is no doubt. But it is still our birthright. No matter where we are in our journey, it's our birthright to be vibrantly healthy. I believe that with every fiber of my being. And I know there are all kinds of situations that feel beyond our control. I get that, okay? So here's some things that I wrote down. I believe that the idea our body is inherently flawed is a blatant lie. I believe if we believe that we're broken, then we're controllable. We also can be sold pharmaceuticals and given medical interventions that we don't need. And that is a blatant lie, that our body is inherently flawed. The belief that our symptoms are failures is a lie. The notion that only someone in a white coat can define your health, another lie. Only this person who looks at all the tests and does all the stuff and has that degree, that's the only one that can tell me what my health is like. I'm sorry, but that's a lie. That's a blatant lie. Okay? This isn't anti-science. This is what I think it is. I think it's anti-amnesia. We're now remembering. I'm anti-amnesia. I'm anti-forgetting. I'm here to remember. That's why I'm here. That's the whole soul journey. I'm here to remember who I am yeah, that's it. Okay, we need to realize this. We are not a mistake. We are a divine being with a physical vessel that is wired to heal, regenerate, and to evolve. Okay? Our body is not separate from nature. It is nature. We're not separate. It is nature. Think about when our soul, our consciousness leaves this physical body. If we allow it to, it will go back to the earth. It will decompose and go back to the earth. Okay, so vibrant health is not a privilege just for the few, just for the people who can afford it. This is not a right or a privilege just for the few. This is our birthright, okay? This is, a right that the systems have tried to monetize, gatekeep, and politicize for centuries. This matrix with all its systems, they monetize it, they politicize it, and it helps us be kept in control. And as we're remembering, we realize no one can control us unless we let them, right? But more and more of us are remembering, and then when we slow down and we return to the natural rhythms, we reintroduce these wild, whole, natural foods and healing plants. And then what happens is this: our body remembers how to thrive. That's what happens. Our body remembers. So what you're doing is, as you start to add herbs, as you start to eat cleaner, as you stop drinking the soda and drinking the alcohol, and as you start to do these things, our body starts to remember. Oh, this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like to thrive. Okay, it doesn't mean that we're never going to face getting sick or being in pain. It doesn't mean that. I still have things, and it brings me back to center, and also it might be because I overdid it. If I was working out, or I was hiking with a friend about 3 weeks ago, and I wore the wrong shoes. They didn't have enough traction on them, and I slipped, and I hurt myself, and I had to heal from that. Now, it wasn't a serious hurt, but we still can feel pain. We can still get sick. So it's not about saying, okay, vibrant health is my birthright, and so I'm never ever going to get sick, right? And if I do, then I'm a failure. No. We are still these physical bodies. They are biology. And while we respect them, while we tune back into Mother Nature, we do all the stuff, our body continues to remember, okay? So it doesn't mean we're not going to have all these, so let's see what I write here. Okay, it doesn't mean we're ever going to not be sick or feel pain. It does mean that we can meet these moments with different tools, like all these plants, that honor all of us, not just our symptoms. Okay? So add some CBD. Like when I have physical pain from, if I injured myself, I'll do CBD, I'll do a little more turmeric than I usually do daily, and I might do something like cat's claw, because cat's claw is good for inflammation and for pain. Those are my kind of 3 go-tos. So I don't turn to ibuprofen or aspirin and I'm not saying there's no judgment if that's what people turn to, but tune in back into the things that are here for us to do that, because then we get a deeper remembering and we get to reconnect our relationship with the plant. Okay, so here are some questions to ask yourself. Who told me that my body wasn't trustworthy, and why did I believe them? Was it a doctor? Was it your mom? Was it an aunt? Was it a friend, a good girlfriend, or a good guy friend? I know people whose mantra is, this is just part of the aging, and once you get to be a certain age, everyone's gonna get this problem. I mean, I have a person in my life who probably told me, probably 10 years ago, that she had just had cataract surgery, and that's great. This is one of the beauties of modern medicine. I'm not against any of these things, or in a judgmental place about any of them. But what she said is, I said, I never dealt with any eye issues. So I just said, that's interesting. And she goes, just you wait. Everybody gets cataracts. Everybody. I've never known anybody that once they get to be a certain age and beyond, they don't get cataracts. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting belief system. And of course, just, being me, I just kind of was like, well, I don't, and to myself, I said, well, I don't believe that. So, and I've gotten to a point where now, if I get that from people, I just say, oh, I don't really think that way, but that's cool. If you want to think that. Okay, so who told me my body wasn't trustworthy, and why did I believe them? What would my life look like if I treated my health as sacred instead of shameful? I know people who will deny the fact that they're having symptoms, or deny, this is common. I've even caught myself in times like that. It's like, no, if I just ignore it, maybe it'll go away. That is so common. So it's not shameful when we start to have health issues. That's a message. That's a message, okay? And actually, what I think it is that's a sacred message. And we need to start treating our health as sacred, rather than, oh, well, it's not going to happen to me. People that, maybe do things that they know is not good for their health. I think it's human nature to be in massive denial. Okay, and then this question: where in my life have I given away my power to experts without checking in with myself? Okay, good question. Okay, and then this: we need to realize that plants heal the mind, body, and soul, but only if you do the work. You can't just go, okay, I'm now going to take this and let the plant be my teacher. You have to put in the work. You have to research. You have to sit still in moments. You need to do things with intention. Go spend time with your basil plant in your yard. If you have a basil plant in your yard, research some of the health benefits of it, and then go sit with it. You have to put in the work, and that might sound woo-woo and crazy, but go commune with these plants that nourish you. Even if you buy a thing of basil a fresh basil from the grocery store, sit with it, talk to it, really look at it. Look at this beautiful plant that grew. Okay, this is work. You have to put in the work. Okay, I always find that so interesting, because talking to plants is so fun and can make you look completely crazy. You don't have to speak out loud. If you're by yourself and you want to dance around your plant and talk to it and speak out loud, great. If not, just be still with it for a minute. Maybe say some stuff inside of your head. Look at it with love and intention. This is a whole new level, right, of talking to your plants. Okay, so what I find is this: sometimes what this will do is it will bring stuff up. It might bring shadows up. It might tell hard truths to you, okay? It will ask you to feel what you've been avoiding for decades. Like when you start to commune with plants, the plants you consume, especially because everyone consumes. Hopefully you're all consuming some type of plants on some level. Broccoli and cauliflower and potatoes, and I'm an Idaho girl. Potatoes are my favorite vegetable. I love potatoes, whether it's mashed or baked or tater tots or fries. I love potatoes. And all of us should hopefully be eating some type of vegetables. And then when you are in that realm, maybe you have a bunch of tinctures and herbal capsules in your cupboard that you consume. Maybe you're already doing this. Really commune with them differently. Look at what they're here to provide for you. Okay, so here's what I wrote. What these do is they don't work like a pill that will make it go away. Okay, it works like a friend who says, let's sit in this together. What this really sounds like, if you think about it, if you've ever done any type of plant medicine journeys, like say with psychedelics, when you've had a facilitator, you've had someone special that does this with you. I mean, I've had probably 4 plant medicine journeys in the last 5 years that have all been pivotal, amazing, intentioned, beautiful. And the whole thing is you go in with it to intention, and typically they're written down, they're discussed, like beautiful, and then you sit with it. Then you are literally sitting with it. And this is in a literal sense, sometimes for hours. And amazing. And you don't have to do that with these things that you're consuming just on a daily basis. But sit with them for even a few seconds. Like, that's all you really are being asked. Just a few seconds longer, because we're in such a rush world. Okay? We have to meet it halfway. And I really like to look at herbs and foods that we consume as medicine. We've heard that saying forever, that our food is our medicine, right? So we need to be willing to meet the plants halfway. We have to feel the discomfort sometimes, and we have to listen. I think that's really important. I think that what happens is many people want the benefits without the accountability, right? I've always said to you can't cover up a bad diet with a bunch of supplements. And I can't tell you over the years how many people I've talked to that are in chronic pain, and they want me to give them some supplements to help with chronic pain. And I'm talking about something that's different than acute pain. Like when I fell, when I was hiking and I had some acute pain because I hurt myself. That's acute pain. That's pain that comes on from an injury. When you are caught in a loop of chronic pain, your body is giving you a message, and it's typically something that's tied to an emotional issue, because the physical pain is easier to deal with than the emotional pain. Okay? So let me say this again. Many people want the benefits of nature without the accountability to their own spirit. We need to be accountable and help clear out those stuck emotions, okay? What that is that's not healing, when you just want to cover up your pain or your symptoms with even herbs, okay? That's really not, they're going to help a ton with stuff like inflammation and pain and digestive issues and heart issues and all the stuff. They're going to help because there's a biological component to that as well, right? But then you need to do the deeper work, okay? So I think you need to be willing to go there, because if you're open, the plants will walk with you. They will walk on this path with you if you are open. I think we just need to quiet down a little bit. We need to take our time just a little bit more. It does not have to be massive. If you think alone of the time that you spend scrolling on your social media or through YouTube channels, and I could be guilty of this, I know. And I've gotten to a point where I almost have to shut my computer, put my phone down, and walk away, because it sucks you right in, right? Okay, so here's what I would suggest. I think it's, besides all of the preparation, slowing down a little bit there, I think it's a really good idea to create a ritual like making a cup of tea. So I wrote down a couple of suggestions. So choose a lesser known herb and sit with it. So choose something that you can either consume or make into a tea, or, I would say make your own tea if you can. I just this past week dropped a video about the red raspberry leaf. So we all love the raspberries, but raspberry leaf has a ton of medicinal benefits, and the way that it's been traditionally and still consumed is in a tea. So raspberry leaf tea would be an amazing thing to learn about. Maybe go watch the video I just did, and all the health benefits that it has. Okay, so kind of consume it. So find a lesser known herb that you're not familiar with, sit with it, make a tea, or hold a tincture, or simply meditate with a dried sprig of it. If you have raspberries in your yard and you've never thought about consuming the leaves, go cut off a sprig of raspberry leaves and sit with it for a minute. It might sound completely silly. It might sound like I look like a fool. I'm gonna, I'm gonna look weird if I do this. But try it. Just try it. Okay? That's what I'm asking you. So here's a question you can ask yourself. What wound in me are you here to help transform? That's a question you can ask, right? Write down what arises. Don't judge and just let the answers come, and they might surprise you, right? This is where I hope that you are journaling along with me. All these years I've been doing all this and doing all my journaling. Write down what comes, and if you just have to be quiet enough to get the answers. And if nothing comes after a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, something else comes in your mind, I got to do this, I got to get up and do that, bring yourself back to center. Take a nice deep breath. Hold that sprig of whatever it is that you have, or that cup of tea, and listen, really listen. Let yourself, and then do it again the next day, and do it again the next day. Make this a constant habit so that you can get really good at it. This is where you need to put the work in. That's exactly what I was talking about. You can't just go, okay, this looks nice. Look at this pretty sprig of raspberry leaf. This is great. Okay, good. And then you move on. Like, give yourself some time. This is the work. That's the work. So here are some questions you can ask yourself. Am I willing to let go of being comfortable in exchange for becoming whole? We all want the comfortable. That's the problem with most modern humans, is we're seeking comfort. We're not willing to do the hard stuff. Like, it's like going into the gym. No one likes to start an exercise routine, especially if it involves lifting weights and it's going to be painful, or even maybe going for a walk, getting on a bike. If you are sedentary, you know that it is hard to start an exercise routine. That's why it's so hard for people, is because we're always searching for comfortable, okay? So you need to be willing to let go of comfortable in exchange for becoming whole. And then this question, what story is my body trying to release that my mind keeps suppressing? This is where I talked about where your body creates pain from the emotion, and it's distracting you from going after how do I need to heal and clear this emotion. It's sometimes easier. It's easier to have a chronic back pain when you're mad at your husband, or you're mad at a situation, or whatever it might be, right? It feels easier. In fact, your body's protecting you with physical pain to protect you from emotional pain. So this is deep work. This is not for the faint-hearted. This is for the people who want to remember on the deepest part of it, remembering, okay? And then this, what would it feel like to move through life with plants as my friends and my teachers rather than just products? What would that feel like, and what would that look like for you? Okay, and then this is where I'm going to end this, because what I think is happening with this remembering this is where the true revolution is. This is it, okay? So all this is not loud, and it's not all over, even alternative media. I think that this is the quiet remembering, because even the whole awakening crowd, all over the channels and all over the platforms, the awakening movement is loud, but the remembering, this is not loud, okay? It's quiet, intimate, and it's embodied. You have to embody this remembering. It happens in the garden, the kitchen, the forest, and in your herbal apothecary. This is where it happens. Okay, it happens when you choose a tea, like raspberry tea, instead of like a synthetic energy drink or or a glass of wine. This is where the shift happens. And it happens when you walk barefoot in the grass rather than numb out to your social media. Okay? When you talk to your trees or to your dandelions rather than just scrolling for social media. We don't need permission to reclaim our medicine. No one needs to give you permission to do all the things that I'm talking about. You don't need permission from anybody, not even from me. I'm just trying to help open your mind to some of this stuff, right? But no one needs to give you permission. You have it. You already have it. The revolution is in the remembering. Okay, we're remembering that the earth is not separate from us, that healing is our birthright, and that we are divine sparks of consciousness. Thank God we are remembering this. Okay, this is beautiful and it's free. I've had some really beautiful conversations with a couple of dear friends this past week, and yesterday I had coffee with a friend, and it was like, we were having this great conversation. It was very, very deep. And I said, I feel like right now in this place where I'm at, where I've had this serious mellow, I realize that the gold is in the remembering. My remembering is that I came here to be free. I think about everything in my life that works me up. And I think about, centralized digital currency. I think about how there's cameras everywhere. And I think about all the systems that try to control us and do to some extent. And my fiercest need as a human being, as a divine consciousness in this human form, is freedom. And I just kind of sat there talking to her about freedom, realizing that's it for me. That's what I am after most, is to be free. Okay? Once we remember, once I remember that, then there's no going back, right? Once you remember, that to me is such an amazing thing, because I've always wondered, why am I so annoyed that the whole mask thing in 2020 and 2021, I wouldn't do it. You're taking away my freedom. Yes, I was one of those. Okay, so here's how I'm going to end this. There's 3 questions. What am I reclaiming that was once lost or stolen from my ancestry, from my lineage? What am I reclaiming? This is a really beautiful part of remembering. And then this, where am I being called to become the medicine for myself and for others? Where are you being called in whatever it is that lights you up, wherever it is your passion is? That's why this whole journaling happened, is because I was given this gift of being born to the dad and the mom that I was born to, and my gift of just understanding and using all these plants in my life. And these last 5 years, and this last probably 3 or 4 since I got my book out, and I've been having a deeper connection with the plants than I ever have in my whole life. This is what lights me up. So what is it that lights you up that you need to remember and help others with? Okay? Where am I being called to become the medicine for myself and for others? I love that question. And then this final question. If I truly believed that I was a divine spark of love, how would I live, eat, rest, and speak differently? If you truly believe that, what would that look like? What would you do differently? Start with one of those things. What would you eat differently if you really believed that you were a divine spark of pure love and consciousness? Because if you are in a body that doesn't function, and you're always worried about the way it feels and how it doesn't sleep and how it's full of anxiety and stress and pain and inflammation and all that, you can't be the vessel that this divine spark of pure love and consciousness needs to bring the best experience and the remembering. Okay, so that's the perfect place to end this. Oh my goodness, 1 hour, almost 1 hour. Well, I'm not surprised, because honestly, this is a very beautiful land in my heart message that I was really excited to bring to you today. So I'd love to know what you think about this. And to me, guys, this is the best time ever to be alive. The big, beautiful changes that we get to experience, not just through the rest of this year, but through the rest of this decade and beyond. We are in the most amazing times, and you can look at it that way, or you can look at it as the world is a crazy, chaotic place. You get to choose. And I think the closer we get to our connection with Mother Earth and all of these plant friends that are here to guide us and speak to us and nourish not just our bodies, but our souls and our spirits, the sooner we can have that remembering, the faster this ascension happens for us individually and collectively. So I hope you have a beautiful Sunday and an amazing week ahead, and we will see you next time.